Hoose, The Last Village by James E. M. Rowlands. Episode 2. Jenny Bird sits on the edge of the promenade wall, dipping her toes into the seaweed and black pods and froth which lap forlorn against the sandstone. Her mind is consumed with one idea, one single pressing thought: to be done with Hoose by any and all means, and as swiftly as possible. Life in this place for a spinster in her 30s and with no apparent interest in finding a suitor will become one of recrimination and ostracism, name-calling and derision, alongside the taking in of others' washing, forever. She hums some familiar old shanty, perhaps a mix of several she has heard. The sea is freedom, the sea knows, the Irish girls will dance and call us on. Some say that it represents death, the sea that is, but not for this handsome daughter of Hoose, her dirty blonde hair all tied up at the back of her nape. She wears nothing upon her head, already a sure sign of rebelliousness, and prefers rough shirts and baggy strides to ungainly dresses and corsets. It's not that she dislikes men or their company. She merely prefers that of the waves and their seemingly infinite vista, a gateway from darkness. The only thing which has kept her here till this moment is her mother, smothering and fussing widowed old Ma'am Elizabeth Bird, nay, Eccles. Her father is long gone, and let us not forget the life expectancy for such people in this age. She is herself statistically more than halfway through the great shuffling of life. Jenny drops her head as the two old fishermen trudge past in the muddy sand about 100 yards or so ahead along the Hoyle bank. She does not wish to be seen, and even less addressed. As it is, they are more than occupied with the carrying of their small vessel upon their heads. Her cover will not be broken, and she returns to reverie. Imagine Dublin, New York, in fact, even Southport would do. New faces, smiles, strangers, new promises. She sees herself as a painter of portraits, and in truth has always been congratulated for her sketches and watercolours. No one in Hoose, however, cares much for art. Art cannot be worn or eaten, nor can it be drunk, although it may well just get a bonfire going. Then, as she's about to rise and take the short walk home, something odd happens. She knows the tides here, as do all the inhabitants of the village, but suddenly she realizes that her feet are not under water any longer. In fact, they are bone dry. She peers down through the little light there is and can see the wrinkled, wormy sands stretching out over the bank, and now as far as the horizon. The tide has completely gone out. In a white-stone cottage at the end of Lake Place, John and Anne Sherlock are huddled on a creaking bed in front of the fireplace, steam rising from their mouths as they fight against the daily need to start a new blaze. A few more minutes. The children are still fast asleep on the other side of the room. Shh. Mustn't make a sound. The Dodds, who live at Backsea View opposite the Plasterers' Arms, are already up and busying themselves before his working day begins. Today he will drive his horse and cart to Walker Street, where Banks will load him up with various ironmongery, which needs to travel all the way to Birkenhead and the Woodside ferry terminal for sale in Liverpool on the other side of the Mersey. Dodd's horse is restless this morning, and he has the greatest difficulty in saddling her and fixing the reins. A few hundred yards further to the southeast, at the very top corner of Wood Street, is another Bevan, William, only distantly related to our Dick, who has been up all night at the lighthouse and has only just reached his front door now. This opens almost onto Market Street, the main shopping thoroughfare and one of the boundaries of Hoose. Ginny is still trying to fathom why the Irish Sea has changed its millennial habits. Dodd's horse bolts. A falling tankard startles the Sherlock children. Bevan finds himself stumbling against the wall as his key falls into the road. This is not the fault of the sea, but on whatever it stands. Deep down there, with the wrecks of great ships, the ghosts of sailors, the monsters of yore, and the crabs, something is up. The earth itself has begun to crack open. All around Hoose, in each of its 300 or so houses, cottages, shacks and yards, tiles are falling, loose bricks are now freed from their moorings, roofs are shuddering. The lucky few who are soundly asleep will miss the worst of what is to occur. Apocalypse. A monumental fracture has appeared along the centre of Trinity Road to the north. Another quickly follows down the centre of Market Street, and this is watched by the terrified dogs. On the west of Hoose, from the beginning of Lake Place all the way to the old lifeboat station, the road is now scythed in half, dead centre. This, however, is just the beginning. Beneath the ground come profound and chaotic waves of growling, crunching hatred. Some are barely perceptible to the ear and yet beat at the ribs like a ferocious wild animal. Smoke and dust are everywhere, as is the aching of joists, the howls of deconstruction. Centuries of toil, hard jobs completed then erased, null and void, like the trustworthy tables of the tides, the future pledges made by those now gone, the blessings of parents at dusk, and all by Maleus Deorum, the hammer of the gods. Without external witness, all the land surrounding our village is sucked instantaneously down into the watery bowels of the earth, in near complete hush, apart from the singing of the sea itself. It happens so hastily that those who live beyond Hoose are trapped. Only some odd bric-a-brac rising to the surface, jostling an instant around its whirling top, then just as quickly ushered away below, gives any inkling that anything had once existed here. During earthquakes, people act on instinct. Some run outside to avoid being crushed as buildings fall. Some hide under desks, stairs and beds or behind their family. Others again find supporting walls and prop themselves there, praying and pleading, reliving and recanting puddles of belated remorse. Hoose being Hoose, there is a frantic and collective rush to the pubs. Only two remain. The Ship Inn was on the wrong side of Market Street, and the Punch Bowl now dangles over a cliff edge, disemboweled. And it is not only Great and Little Mells and the sandhills behind them, but all the land beyond that, which ripples and rises and falls, arched up and plummeting down. And the sun rises perfectly on time. Here now is an island, facing all ways and struck off before it can begin. Here are faces that have rarely seen a clinging sun, and hands from the womb like loaves wrinkled in the endless debt of work. This morning stood a sprawling, feasting human empire upon which the sun never set. A million tongues, tales, wars, generations, laws, inventions, loves, and that talisman, infinite progress. Where rose the hills in Wales lies spume, eagles with nowhere to nest, leaves, broken and contorted trunks, and finely whittled twigs like flutes. Where were all those grand northern ports is nothing now. Only Hoose, our last village. Soon, as nature settles into what it is left with, decisions will have to be made, but not for now. Let us leave these poor souls time to crawl from the rubble to the alehouse and to see for themselves the new world. But mark my words, Hoose is a hard and inventive place. The stars still shine. There is no panic. An exodus is already afoot.